بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري أنه قال عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتا من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فآتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به، وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أمّا. فقلت: عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أمّا إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جدة يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أمّا. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أمّا إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: عليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. وقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم آتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: عليك السلام يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بدعتي قد أذنت لك، فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومي بيدي اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يعلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم، وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمة وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، واذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أحبط إلى الأرض ليكون معكما سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم قد أذنت لك. فحبت الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مضحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. فقال لي أبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. محمد وآل محمد. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلا إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا: يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله همه، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. وقال علي: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة صلى الله عليه وآله، يا أبا القاسم، يا رسول الله، يا إمام الرحمة، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله، يا أبا الحسن، يا أمير المؤمنين، يا علي بن أبي طالب، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا، يا فاطمة الزهراء، يا بنت محمد، يا قرة عين الرسول، يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيحة عند الله، اشفعي لنا عند الله، يا أبا محمد، يا حسن بن علي، أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله، يا أبا عبد الله، يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها الله اشفع يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وصي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله حاجات يا ساداتي ومواليا إني توجهت بكم عمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وهاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعتم بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوب عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا ساداتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين. إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات ثواب الفاتحة.
صلوات. لگا کر ہے دری نعرے ہے چہرے مسکراتے ہیں، علی کے چاہنے والے خوشی سے مناتے ہیں. ہماری بندگی مولا، ہماری زندگی مولا، نبی نے کہہ دیا مولا، جسے بس ہے وہی مولا. سکھایا ماں نے اپنی لوریوں میں یا علی مولا. غدیر خم کا قصہ، غدیر خم کا قصہ اپنے بچوں کو سناتے ہیں، علی کے چاہنے والے. کھلا کرتا ہے حج کے درمیاں خوشیوں کا دروازہ، طواف ساہ ہوتا جھومتا ہے خانہ کعبہ. دلوں میں عظمت توحید لبر یا علی مولا. خدا کے گھر علی پیدا، خدا کے گھر علی پیدا ہوئے سب کو بتاتے ہیں، علی کے چاہنے والے سے مناتے ہیں. جو کہلاتا ہے مومن کربلا کا ہے وہ باشندہ، مظالم کے مقابل خون سے رہتا ہے پائندہ. علی پر جان دے کر یہ ہمیشہ ہو گئے زندہ. شہیدوں کے تو چہرے بھی، شہیدوں کے تو چہرے بھی کفن میں مسکراتے ہیں، علی کے چاہنے والے مناتے ہیں. کوئی برا بھی آ جائے تو وہ ہو کر جواں اٹھے، دلوں سے نعرہ حیدر زمین تا آسماں اٹھے. میرے ہر شعر پر دل سے منافق کے دعا اٹھے. جو منکر ہے علی کے، جو منکر ہے علی کے، ان کو لفظوں سے جلاتے ہیں، علی کے چاہنے والے خوشی سے مناتے ہیں. لگا کر ہے دری نعرے ہے چہرے مسکراتے ہیں، علی کے چاہنے والے خوشی سے مناتے ہیں، علی کے چاہنے والے خوشی سے مناتے ہیں. صلوات.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Sayyid Hasan, Rizvi, respected elders, dearest brothers and sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum, Jami wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For the love of our ninth holy Imam, Imam Muhammed-At Taqi alayhi salam, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Surah Fatiha is requested for all marhumin listed on the screen as well as all other marhumin. Surah Mubarak al-Fatiha. Dua Shfa Maries is requested for all those in need here and elsewhere, as well as those listed on the screen. Let us recite together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. Ya Allah, let us now invite Sayyid Hasan Rizvi to please come forward for tonight's Majalis. By Muhammad wa Muhammad salawat.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين بالقاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Mu'mineen, Mu'minat, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Salamun Alaikum wa Rahmatullahi wa Barakatuh. Tonight on the 10th of Rajab, we are celebrating the Wiladat anniversary of our 9th Holy Imam, Imam Muhammad-At Jawad Taqi alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli. As I was going through some of his history, some of the riwayat that have been attributed to him, one of the hadith, stuck out. And, the age that we live in right now, people are looking for shortcuts, the easy way out, in order to, solve their problems. The kind of depth and the effort and the work that people used to put in before doesn't really exist anymore. It's rare. Right? You don't have too many people that are willing to sit down and dedicate hours to reading, or somebody willing to put in time to listen to a long form lecture. Now everybody wants short little clips, little sound bites, something to take away very, very fast, right? And normally, personally, I think that there's an issue with that, which is worthy of discussion. But as I was this was sitting in my head, I came across this hadith where, as I was reading through the words of the Imam, it seemed as though the Imam was addressing every single modern day problem that exists in the most concise way possible. In one, very short, very profound hadith, the Imam lists out a few different things which very aptly and precisely describe every single modern day issue that human beings in general face, but very specifically Muslims, and even more precisely Shias face as well. So I thought that tonight we would go through this together line by line and see if we can benefit from the words of the Imam. If you can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So he's reported to have said, Ad-Deen Izz. Deen is Izz, yani Izzat. It's pride, glory. Wal-ilm kanz. Ilm is like a treasure. Wa-samt nur. Silence is light, nur. Wa-ghayatu zuhud al-wara. The end or peak of zuhud, asceticism or detachment from the dunya, is wara. Wara meaning, or translated normally as piety, devotion, something like that. Wala hadma lid-deen mithlul bid'ah. There's nothing that destroys and ruins deen like a bid'ah, an innovation in religion. وَلَا أَفْسَدَ لِلرَّجُلِ مِنَ الطَّمْعِ. There's nothing more corrupting and destructive to human beings than tam', which is greed. So after all these qualities, then the Imam at the end gives these short ways, and 2 lines mentions how these things can be helped and rectified. وَبِالرَّاعِ تَصْلِحُ الرَّعِيَّةِ. Through guardianship and protection, your flock or flocks or sheep will achieve sulh and harmony. وَبِالدُّعَاءِ تُصْرَفُ بَلِيَّةِ. And through dua, trials and tribulations are diverted and put aside. Let's go piece by piece and see how all these tiny little lines actually work together and give us a larger picture and message, inshallah. You can recite another salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The first line is ad-deen izz. Deen is izz. Deen is pride. When we normally talk about the concept of deen and we translate it as religion, is the first thing that comes to our mind that deen, Islam is a source of pride for us? Usually, maybe for some of you it is. But if we're looking at those who are struggling with their deen right now, and if we're going to apply and explain the concept of deen as a perfect way of life, then no. The problem that most people have right now is that they don't have any izzah towards their deen. There is no sense of pride. All it is a bunch of questions and criticisms and objections. And why this, why that? Right? Deen as a perfect way of life. Inna deen inda Allah is Islam. Right? The deen with Allah is Islam. The way that we're supposed to live and that the way that Allah wants us to live our life is Islam. That doesn't exist in the hearts of most people. It's something culturally passed down, given to us, and we'll act upon it because of social peer pressure. And that's pretty much it. Right? The traditions that we've taken, the Shia Islam, that's what we're going with. The pride, the iftikhar that we need, that the Imam is saying, that maybe is absent from us. And you see, one of the ways that people can improve their life is when they start to get more of that yaqeen, they start to understand their deen at a deeper level, then they start to have pride in it. Right? And I usually tell people these stories. Myself when I was younger, and all my non-Muslim friends, they would go out drinking and things like that. And obviously I'd be home, I'd stay, I couldn't go out with them. And a part of me was, a little dejected, like I felt left out. They'd say, all right, we're going out, you Muslim, you stay home, sorry, we're going to go enjoy ourselves. So obviously I was like, I know they were kind of joking with me, but it cut deep too. Like, I can't go out and do this. I didn't have any pride at that point. So when they say something like this, I kind of smirked and I laughed, but deep down, yeah, it hurt. And I'm sure many of you, whether you're, a senior, a young adult, or, a kid, I'm sure some situation like that has arisen too. Somebody has called into, your life. They've called to attention something that you're not doing or something you are doing. All right, Ramadan's right around the corner. Somebody's going to call out, what is this fasting? What are you doing? Why are you wasting your time with this? All right? There's always a part of the deen that if we don't understand what it really is for, then we lose out, we don't have that pride, then we become, we're not even offensive, we're not defensive, we're nothing. We cower, right? We're like, cowards, and we're just like, yeah, I'm so sorry that I'm part of this faith that doesn't make any sense. That's what we feel, kind of deep down. But, later on, when somebody gets, true understanding of the deen, now, there's different ways of doing that. Sometimes, nowadays everybody wants their scientific evidence. You guys know how I feel about that, so I'm not going to go through that again. But even that sometimes, right? People now see, okay, they read the articles. What's the benefit of fasting? And now that everybody sees that, it does X, Y, Z. Or what's the benefit of, for example, prostrating on the earth, 5 times a day? Oh, it has this benefit. X, Y, Z, right? Now, anything that has a scientific benefit, now that gives us some sense of pride. And we can go back to somebody and say, oh, you guys drink? Well, drinking has this sort of detrimental quality. Oh, you eat pork? Well, of course I don't eat pork because it's X, Y, Z. It's this, it's that bad for you. So sometimes that gives somebody enough pride in their deen, which, they'll kind of push back a little bit. And it took me a little while to figure that out too. Whereas, when I used to be called out before and, I would cower, at some point later on, when I got a bit more pride, when I really understood the deen, when I would be called out for it, then, I would push back against people. And I would say, somebody called me out once, I remember, and, then they were asking about, drinking and things like that. And when I said, no, I don't drink. And they're like, oh, you're so boring. And then, obviously this is when the ghira came out. I was like, what do you mean I'm boring? Like, it's fun to drink and this and that. I said, what do you guys call alcoholic drinks? What are some names for it? This person started listing out some names. And one of the names that they call alcohol is spirits, right? If you look at it, they sell alcohol, spirits, things like that. So when this person said, they're called spirits too, I said, spirits. Like, do you know why they call it spirits? Like, no. Like, because you have to have no soul to drink it, that's why. Like, that's the only way you guys have any life in you. And then got a little offended, and maybe it wasn't the best thing to say, but I had to push back a little bit. So inshallah, Allah will forgive me for that. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And this is where the Imam is kind of laying this out in the next line. وَعِلْمٌ كَنْزٌ. Ilm, knowledge, real knowledge, is a treasure. This day and age where now everybody's grabbing their information from, I'm going to go anti-TikTok now, sorry, I have to do it. But even Islamic information is coming from these quick little tidbits, right? I want Islam in like 10 seconds. It's not just Islam. Medical advice is coming out through, these short little clips. People are learning, DIY advice, right? Housework stuff. Everything is trying to be jam-packed. Things that used to have this, used to be a trade, used to be a skill. People would have to spend time learning these things with an expert, right? This idea of being an apprentice. You would spend your time and go through this. I don't think there's any Star Wars nerds in the audience. I doubt it. But for those who are, the reason why so many people don't like the newer films, right? Episode 7, 8, 9. The reason why they're so bad is because the new Jedis are people who just pick up a lightsaber and do whatever they want. They weren't taught anything. Like, look, the whole idea of, student-teacher relationship, of learning things, you guys have destroyed that. In every other skill in life, you don't have this stuff naturally. You sit down with a master, you learn, trial and error, you learn things that they know that you can't read in books. This is also why Hawza itself has its importance. A lot of people, they just want to open up a few books and read things. Alhamdulillah, read. I'm not saying don't read, but there's a difference between, going on Al-Islam, reading through some articles and books there, versus being in the presence of a teacher who sat, with Shaykh Mutahiri, sitting with a teacher who was one of the top students of Allama Tabatabai, rahmatullah alayhima. Well, when you have this chain of wilayah passing down, you see that, look, the ulama have been carrying these nuggets, these pieces of treasure for generation upon generation upon generation, and they pass this to their students. You can't get that when you open a book. That information's not there. Even sometimes these things happen in, classes too. I took, I had to take 2 economics classes in college, both macro and micro. I think I stopped there. I think that was enough money talk for me in college. And I think this was I feel like this was my macroeconomics teacher. I can't remember who it was. Anyway, so, we had our book, obviously, going through all the different theories and whatever. And, I forgot which class it was. I remember the teacher would, our professor, a lot of the times, he would just kind of like shut the book or shut the lesson and just kind of go off script. And just start giving us like pieces of advice that, he had learned. And I remember one of them, he said that, look, all of this information that we're learning over here, all these details, they're all a bunch of theories. He said, but the one thing that these individuals, in Keynesian economics or Friedman or none of these guys, they've never understood and they can never understand the changing dynamic nature of human beings. Like, that's not factored into any of these equations that you look at economics. He's like, they can't figure that out. It's like, so you can read these books, you can memorize all this stuff, that will never tell you actually how human economics works out. And he also did say this, that if you guys ever want to get rich, he's like, all you have to do is make, I think he told us $100,000, and this was back in like mid-2000s, that's why he said 100,000. Nowadays, that probably wouldn't fly. He said, if you get me $100,000, he's like, I guarantee you give that to me, and I'll make you a millionaire, and I'll let you survive for the rest of your life like that. Right? He said, this is something that your books are not going to teach you too. So your professors and teachers, they have this advice, these pieces of wisdom that you don't find anywhere else. So in this society, when we're trying to learn and improve our deen, we have to make sure we understand that ilm, knowledge, is not just out there for everybody to grab. Knowledge is not some equal thing that everybody has access to. It's a treasure, and treasure requires effort. Treasure requires, you go on an adventure. You go out and, we have to be skilled in, knowing how to go out and getting it. People talk about, I've heard ulama use this analogy for the Quran. They say the Quran is like a sea. Right? It's like the ocean. See, anybody can benefit from it. right? Some people, they just go and they sit by the side on the beach and they enjoy the weather there, right? Maybe they get a tan or something. Some people, they can go for, a swim. Maybe that's their benefit. They'll go get wet. Other people, maybe they know how to swim, so they can go a bit deeper into the water, right? And they go swim and they enjoy that way. Some people, maybe they have, scuba training or something, so they can go scuba diving. And then there are some people who go beyond that and they have deep sea trained diving, and they do that. They can go to the depths of the ocean and find things like these treasures and pearls and things like that, which people on the surface have no access to because they don't have the skill set. He said the Quran is the same exact way. Every single person, any human can read the book and get some benefit out of it, just like the people on the beach. But the more skill set you develop, the more you learn, the Quran will have more to offer to you and I at that point. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now, deen, izzah, it's a sense of pride. It should be. Ilm is a treasure. No, it's going to take some effort to get it. What's the greatest way and the most important skill in this? The next line from the Imam, وَالصَّمْتْ نُور. Silence is nur. Silence is light. This is an era where everybody wants to get their opinion out there. Everybody needs to talk. They have to give their opinion on a religious matter. They have to share their opinion on what's going on in politics. Right? Everybody knows what's happening with these police officers who I think all were fired. I think three EMTs, they were fired too with what happened. So everybody now has to give their 2 cents. What do they think? What's the nature of police? Is this a racial thing or not? It doesn't matter if you know anything about the police force, if you know anything about race relations in the U.S. It doesn't matter if you know anything about the background of what happened there, but you have to give an opinion, right? Because that's what goes on. Just grab your phone, record yourself, and put it online. That's what everybody's doing right now. See, before, in order to actually get your ideas out there, to be published in the larger, greater world, you had to actually had something to offer, right? It had to go through a publishing company. Even if you self-publish, people would look at this name and say, who's this? Publishing companies were the source, or other writers would tell you who's a good writer, who's not. Nowadays, everybody's an influencer, so it doesn't really matter. Somebody just records himself. As long as the presentation is nice, right? Videography, direction, writing, all that stuff. If that's good, then it doesn't matter what the content is. Nobody cares. There's plenty of fancy videos out there. All you have to do now is just point to a bunch of, you don't have to talk, you just point to some bubbles and people are being watched. I don't understand it, but that's what people are doing. And that's enough to get liked and followed and subscribed and retweeted and all this. It's just a bunch of words. They don't have to source whatever they're talking about either. You know how often I'm getting people sending me messages, say, look, I just saw this on TikTok, I saw this on Twitter, this clip on YouTube. At least they have some sense where they're like, Hasan, can you fact check this, please? I'm like, look, and after I do, then 90% of the time it's wrong. I said, now hopefully you get the picture that maybe this is not, the best primary source to use. Maybe you start to realize that, some random person dancing in a video maybe doesn't understand the ahkam of salah, right? Maybe you should put 2 and 2 together like that. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Okay, so now Imam said, deen is izzat, deen is pride. Ilm is a treasure. Silence is nur. Being quiet, right? Listening. Let somebody teach you and explain to you these things rather than giving your opinion all the time. What's next now? وَغَايَةُ الزُّهْدِ الْوَرَعِ. The peak of zuhd, of asceticism or detachment from the dunya is what? Is wara'. Waw, ra, ain. Wara'. Now, a lot of people, if you see the translation, it will just say that wara' means piety, devotion. You'd say, okay, that sounds like taqwa. But wara' and taqwa are 2 different concepts. And the way the ulama explain the difference between taqwa and wara' is taqwa is pretty much the bottom level of wara'. And wara' has its higher levels. I'll mention some of these levels, inshallah, for you tonight. And there's, many ulama have their own understandings of the different levels. Allama Majlisi, for example, mentions 4 different levels. Imam Khomeini, qaddasallahu sirru, mentions 6 different levels, which I'll share with you. The first he says is wara' amma, the general level of wara', piety. He says, which is pretty much no different than taqwa, which is what? Somebody who just says, I keep away from the gunai kabira, the greater sins. So that's level 1, right? Your bottom level. He says, then there's wara' khasa, your higher level or very specific type of piety. What is that? Is that anytime somebody encounters shubahat, doubtful issues that might lead them to haram, they keep away from that too. It may or not, may be haram and may not. But because it's a gray area, they say, you know what, I'm going to keep away from it too. That's the second level. There's a third level. Wara'a ahlul zuhud. The wara' of the people who are the type of ascetics and people who are detached from the dunya. He says these are people now who look at the mubahat, things which they know are not haram. They know that are halal, but they say that these things distance me from Allah. Right? Like watching TV, watching sports, something like that. They said, look, it's mubah, it's not haram to do it, but I know that when I do this, it's pushing me away from Allah. It's occupying my time when I should be occupied in another way. So they say, I'm going to keep away from that too. That's level 3. Level 4, what are ahl suluk? The people who are sayr suluk. Now you're getting to these really higher levels. This is a person who completely abandons even looking at the dunya. The dunya, they want to even keep away from looking at it because for them they say, I'm trying to reach these high maqamat, these high levels and stations. Right? This is level 4. We got 2 more to go if you didn't think that was high enough. War'al majdhubin, the piety and devotion of those who are attracted by Allah. Allah pulls them towards Himself. What is this? These are people who say, look, those maqamat that the previous people were after? He says, I'm abandoning those maqam, those stations, I don't want those. All I want is to reach Babullah. I want to reach the door of Allah. That's what I'm looking for. I want to have and perform shuhud of the jamal of Allah. That beauty of Allah, I want to witness that and that's it. I don't need any fancy stations or levels or powers or anything like that. I just want to witness Allah and that's it. That's not the highest level, by the way. The highest level is, according to Imam Khomeini, wara'a of the awliya. Right, the awliya, the waliullah, highest station, the masters, right, the friends of Allah. So these people say, we abandon any type of goal and objective and purpose. There should be nothing in our mind whatsoever. Everything we do is just a reaction of what Allah wants from us, and that's it. We are not looking for heaven. We're not looking for powers or stations or rewards, nothing like that. I'm not looking to meet Allah. I'm not looking for anything like that. I'm just acting in what Allah wants, and that's it. Now, this sounds very difficult, obviously. I'm sure after level 2, you guys are like, who can even do this kind of stuff? But these are the things that ulama work on. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So yeah, we got a lot of work to do, but it's okay. It's okay. We can take it easy. Now, there's a lot more to go in this hadith. So let me go through these lines. وَلَا هَدْمَ لِلدِّينِ مِثْلُ الْبِدْعَةِ. There's nothing more destructive and nothing that demolishes deen like a bid'ah. Now, this is its own topic, I think. Nothing can ruin that pride that you originally had in deen. Nothing can ruin that more than introducing something new to the religion. Now, like I said, this requires its own, discussion. Sunni and Shia have different definitions of what bid'ah means. And in fact, this is the case where Shias are actually stricter. Our ulama are stricter on bid'ah than Sunnis are, if you would believe that. So the Sunnis have there's a difference of opinion amongst them, but they make a distinction between bid'ah hasana and bid'ah sayyah. Good bid'ah and bad bid'ah. Right? That's why Taraweeh, for them, it's okay. It's got some good benefits, let's keep it. Right? And many other things. It's nice, let's add it in, no problem. Adhan is changed, it's okay, let's keep it. Right? So they have this sort of category. We don't have anything like that. Say, look, if you are introducing something new and you are considering it part of the deen, it's a bid'ah, it's haram, you're not allowed to do that. No, if you want to introduce something new and say it's a cultural practice and it has benefit, just do not attach it to the deen and it's fine. We can do that, that's okay. But don't ever claim that it's part of the deen in the first place. This is why the ulama are very, very, especially those like Ayatul Sistani, they are very careful about, look, when I call something mustahab, I need to have evidence to say that it's mustahab and it's part of the deen. You can't just start doing whatever you want and say, yeah, this is mustahab, the imams wanted you to do that. No. There needs to be strong evidence for this, at least according to Ayatul Sistani. Other ulama, they might have a different opinion, but at least for Ayatul Sistani, this is the way it is. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I wish I could explain more, but we're running out of time. So let me just quickly go to the last lines. وَلَا أَفْسَدَ لِلرَّجُلِ مِنَ الطَّمْ. There is nothing that destroys humans more than greed. I think that's self-explanatory. Don't be greedy. But in the context of this hadith, the greed that you and I are probably thinking about is, greed for money and dunya and power. The greed, most likely, what the ulama are saying here, is greed within deen itself. right? The Imam just said, do not introduce bid'ah. That's going to destroy your deen. Some people are greedy and are looking to introduce more. In the back of their mind, they think that the way that the Ahlul Bayt have passed down the deen to them, to us, is not enough. I have to start introducing new things. You know, the masa'ib that I hear, the gham, it's not enough. We need to spice it up a little bit. Let's add some lines. You know, mera dil kehta hai, you know, this kind of stuff. I have to add it in because otherwise I'm not going to get the, you know, whatever, you know what I mean. That's what some people do, unfortunately, because it's not enough. And well, it's because the people, they have an issue too. They say, you know, maza nahi aaya, majlis mein. You know, one alim was told this after a majlis. He said, Maulana, you know, it was a nice majlis, lekin maza nahi aaya. Oh man, you should have seen the face of that alim. He was upset. I'm not going to tell you what he said, but he was very, very upset. Oh man. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The last two lines, actually, this second to last line is really important. Let me go with the last line, then I'll jump back to this. وَبِالدُّعَى تُصْرَفُ الْبَلِيَّةِ It's through dua that trials and tribulations, bala, is averted. It's a concept of dua. Maybe another time we can go more in depth there. But this other line, وَبِالرَّاعَى تَصْلِحُ رَعِيَّةِ It's through guardianship and protection that a flock achieves its sulh and harmony, its peace and tranquility. This, in a nutshell, is talking about wilaya, about hierarchy. This word that the Imam's using, ra'a and ra'iyya, is normally words that are used for when you have a shepherd with his flock. That it's, you know, sheep and animals, the only way that they are maintained when they're grazed is when there's an actual shepherd there. Otherwise they run amok, they go crazy, right? That's how they're domesticated. The idea here is that this is the nature of wilaya. And again, within the context of this hadith, it's saying the same thing. Without this wilaya system being here, then everybody's going to be off in chaos. There is no pride in your deen then, because there is no system of wilaya there. There is no ilm being a treasure because you think that everything's in your hands and you can do whatever you want. Samt, that silence that you should have been practicing, is gone, right? Because you're just talking all the time and telling people what you think rather than listening first. There is no zuhud there. Imam said, you know, zuhud, you need to practice, you know, keeping away from things that are haram. Well, what's the point if there's no guardian, there's no wali over me telling me what is necessary, what's good and what's bad? So this hadith is saying, look, if you're trying to achieve all of this, and you can understand the context of the Imam and his situation too, through these words, telling the Shia there, who are being caught up in the Abbasid propaganda, saying, look, you need to follow the systems of wikala that we have in place here. These individuals that we've said, especially around the time of the Imam, when he's dealing with the Waqifiyya and these other random sects, people who are moving astray, he said, look, I've told you what the system is. I've told you who you should be following. If you are in doubt now of who's the Imam, it's because you haven't been following what we've been saying. We've left behind the clues. We've left behind a system for you. If you follow that system, then you'll be okay. There should be no reason for you to, go astray. But if there's some doubt in your mind, if there's some existential crisis you're going through, then perhaps somewhere in this dua or somewhere in this hadith, this is where our answers lie. Maybe it's because we don't consider our deen a sense of pride. Maybe it's because we don't consider knowledge a treasure. Maybe it's because we're not practicing that silence and listening and learning. Maybe it's because we're not trying to practice zuhud and detaching ourselves from things which push us away from Allah. Maybe we are introducing bid'ahs and sticking to that. We're being greedy in our deen and trying to introduce more and more things because that's what makes the deen flavorful. When we abandon that sense of wilaya, then these are some of the repercussions. And the Imam again ends saying that, look, dua, if you're really trying to get all the stuff that I said, you make dua, sincere dua to Allah, saying, look, I don't want any of this to be a part of me. I want that ilm, I want that nur, I want to be part of the wilaya system. And this is something we remember as we remember the birth anniversary of our Imam, that when we remember his fada'il, and remember what they did, we also remember that wilaya system that has been maintained year after year after year, generation after generation after generation, so that we have these teachings in our hands and we can actually utilize them and practice them, inshaAllah ta'ala. We can move on with our Slido quiz right now, after a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So only a few lines the Imam said, and I thought that, we might be able to get through with it, maybe 20 minutes, but, I'm sorry, I had to go, I had no choice. Just in these few lines, there's a lot to talk about, but khair. It's all right. I cut out time from the previous one, so I added that time for this one, right? It evens out, I think. All right. Assalamu alaikum to everybody. Eid and Kushali Mubarak to all of you. Let's see who joined. Keeps getting, I don't know. What's this new bid'ah you guys are inventing where every time the names come on, you take them off so I can't see them? Okay, I can see the list here. So we have SD, Bande Khuda, Qambar, Jalsa, I don't know what that is. Sabi M, Hasan, oh, now it's back. Amir, HIC for Life, Truth Seeker, Alia L, Hamisi, Ali, Abbas, Musa, RJ, Specialists, Hello, Umme, or Amin Alaka, Mohogo, question mark, Jahil, Panda, what is happening? What is it? I think you guys are doing this on purpose. You and me, Ammar Ali, Maza, Al-Asab, Steve Jobs, Abbas, Abu Sabiha, Truth Seeker, DUGNC, Musa, Hor, TJ, Koala. The name's back? Okay, they're back. Gulab Jamun, very nice. Okay, let's get started, inshallah. Good luck to everybody. Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam kunya is what? Abu Ali, Abu Abdullah, Abu Ja'far, or Abu al-Hasan. What is Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam? What is his kunya? You just recited Dua Tawassul. I think if you're paying attention, then you should know it. It's Abu Ja'far. That is his kunya. And he's actually known as Abu Ja'far al-Thani, right? Because there's another Abu Ja'far who is who? Fifth Imam. Thank you guys for not shouting out the answer. Second question, let's go. Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam was born towards the end of Imam al-Rida's life when he was how many years old? 35, 47, 58, or 65? How old was Imam al-Rida alayhi salam when Imam al-Jawad was born? This was actually one of the difficulties of the Shia because, yes, most of you got it right, 47. This is why one of the reasons why the Waqifiyya came about. They said, you claim to be an Imam, but you're 47, you've got no children. How can you be an Imam? Right? So they had a shak in the system of Wilaya, and they had no tawakkul there. And that was a problem. But Imam said, don't worry, it's coming. Well, he didn't say it exactly like that, I'm paraphrasing, but Okay, next question. Who was Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam's mother? Habiba, Maria, Hakima, or Sabika? What was the name of the Imam's mother? So this was a tough one for you guys. It was Sabika. The Hagia Sophia was commissioned by which emperor? Justinian I, Constantine IV, Mehmed II, or Ataturk? The Hagia Sophia, which is in Turkey right now. Who commissioned it? Oh, no. It was Justinian I. The Byzantines had done, yeah. 4 out of 4, what are, very good, 35 seconds. Very impressive. Al-Asab, 3 out of 4, 23 seconds. Specialist in 3rd place, also 3 out of 4, 32 seconds. Koala, so close, only 4 seconds behind. And Hamisi, also very close, 3 seconds behind in 5th place. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad, wa ala Ahl Baytih at-Tayyibin at-Tahirin.
Salam Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. कहते थे अली कूफे में ये बरसर मिंबर, हैदर हूँ मैं हैदर हूँ मैं हैदर, حیران ہے دنیا حیران ہے دنیا کیوں میرے معجزے سن کر حیدر ہوں میں حیدر حیدر ہوں میں حیدر سورج میرے کہنے پہ بھلا کیوں نہ پلٹا تارا میری دہلیز پہ کیسے نہ اتارا میں نے ہی جلائے میں نے ہی جلائے تھے بجھا دیتا میں اکثر حیدر ہوں میں حیدر حیدر ہوں میں حیدر ہے رب کی صداقت کے حوالے میرے بس میں قرآن میں اللہ نہ کھائیں میری قسمیں لا ریب لقب ہے لا ریب لقب ہے میرے قرآن کے اندر حیدر ہوں میں حیدر حیدر ہوں میں حیدر اس بات کی قدرت ہے فقط میرے قلم میں تصویر بناتا ہوں میں مادر کے شکم میں تخلیق پہ خالق تخلیق پہ خالق نے کیا مجھ کو مقرر حیدر ہوں میں حیدر حیدر ہوں میں حیدر جو لوگ سمجھتے ہیں میں واللہ نہیں ہوں بس جان لو سب کچھ ہوں میں اللہ نہیں ہوں معبود ہے اکبر معبود ہے اکبر وہ میرا خالق اکبر ہمت تھی کس میں در خیبر کو اکھارے انتر کو کرے زیر و مرحب کو پچھارے گہوار میں لیتے ہوئے اجدر کو بھی پھارے ڈوبے ہوئے سورج کو جو مغرب سے ابھارے یہ کون عجائب کا مظہر کون ولی ہے یہ مولا علی مولا علی مولا علی ہے یہ مولا علی ہے یہ مولا علی ہے کعبے میں ہے مولود کے سی پی میں گوہر ہے یہ نور کی بارش ہے کہ حوروں کا سفر ہے دیوار بنی در یہ تو حیدر کا اثر ہے مکے کی فضاؤں میں بھی پھیلی یہ خبر ہے کس نور سے ملنے کو چلا نور نبی ہے یہ مولا علی مولا علی مولا علی ہے یہ مولا علی ہے علی ہے کعبے سے امامت کی کرن پھوٹ رہی ہے ہلچل ہے ملائک میں کہ صف ٹوٹ رہی ہے کفار و منافق کی کمر ٹوٹ رہی ہے مکے کی زمین در نجف لوٹ رہی ہے कुदसी की सदा काबा फलक सिर्फ यही है, ये मौला अली मौला अली मौला अली है, ये मौला अली है, ये मौला अली है, ये मौला अली मौला अली मौला अली है, ये मौला अली है। मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib. Assalamu alayka ya Fatima al-Zahra Sayyidati Nisa'il Alameen. Assalamu alayka ya Hasan al-Mujtaba. Assalamu alayka ya Hussein Shahid bi Karbala. Assalamu alayka ya Ali Zain al-Abidin. السلام عليك يا محمد الباكر. السلام عليك يا جعفر الصادق. السلام عليك يا موسى الكاظم. السلام عليك يا علي الرضا. السلام عليك يا محمد التقي الجواد. السلام عليك يا علي النقي الهادي. السلام عليك يا حسن العسكري. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب العصر والزمان. الأمان الأمان الأمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم كن لوليك لهجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وأينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توءا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. صلى الله على محمد وآل محمد.